Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter from Berkshire Paint and Sip, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Alright, so today I'm going to be painting Crocheting Crocodile. I'm sipping on some honey lemon tea, and if you enjoy this process, I do hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and that you also check out my Patreon page where you're going to find additional painting perks. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. Alright, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along with me, you can certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, burnt umber, which I like to call brown, raw sienna, which I'll probably call yellow, fire red, Mars black, and green oxide. And of course you can switch up those colors if you'd like to, but that's what I'll be using. For my tools today, I have a standard number 2 pencil that I'll be using for some drawing. And then I have 3 brushes from my personal brush line, which is Michelle the Painter brushes. I have a 1-inch wide flat bristle brush. I have a number 8 round synthetic brush, and I have a number 3 round synthetic brush, and I'll refer to these as small, medium, and large as we go through the painting process. And of course you can switch those up as well if you'd like to. If you're painting along with me, you'll probably want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I will be providing you with a couple of additional resources that can help you throughout your painting process. One of them is a link where you can purchase the same exact paint kit that I'm using, from the same type and size of canvas to the same type of paints and brushes and all the good stuff in between. So that's there. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what we're going to do for the first step is we're going to be painting our background. I'm going to be using my large bristle brush for painting, but I'm going to use my medium brush to mix a custom color that you'll be able to mix along with me. So what I'm going to do is I just want my background to be a nice neutral color that is going to complement my object or my focal point, which is this cute crocodile, but I want it so it doesn't really take away from the star of my show. So I'm just going to have a nice neutral tan background. I'm going to have it a little bit lighter up at the top, so it almost implies that there's a light source up at the top, and then fade it down to a little bit darker as I go down the canvas. So I have pre-mixed my color, which is this tan type of color in through here. How I got to that was I used brown, I used a lot of white, and a little bit of yellow. So the yellow is just going to add a nice kind of golden hue to it, so it's not so such a drab type of a tan. The brown might turn it a little bit on the duller side, so I'm just using that yellow to give me a nice kind of golden hue to it. And that's about where I'm headed for my color. So once you've got your color the way that you would like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just finish mixing it while it's down here so it doesn't slide off my palette. So I'm going to put my medium brush away. I'm going to take out my large brush, and I'm going to start at the top of my canvas with white paint on my brush. So I have white paint to start. I'm going to go up in this top right hand corner, and then once I've got a good little area in through here, I'm going to start picking up my custom tan that I created. So I kind of went in an almost diagonal type of a crescent shape in through here. Now I'm going to pick up white plus my tan. So I have about equal parts of the white and the tan on my brush, and then I'm just going to kind of get this to occupy this space. I'm going to blend it into that light area in a second, just kind of getting this on here. And now I'm just going to blend it up and into that light area. So what I'm in essence doing is implying that there may be a light source up in that top right-hand corner of whatever room this crocodile is crocheting in. So this will help to add a little bit of atmospheric dimension and give us a little bit of information where we can put highlights and shadows and things of that nature. So that's looking pretty good. So now, without washing my brush, I'm just going to pick up my tan color and finish painting the entire canvas with this tan mixture. So by the time it's done, it will end up a little bit darker at the bottom because we are just using the tan all by itself. And sometimes, depending on the brand of paint that you're using or the type of canvas that you're using, the paint may change a little bit as it dries. Sometimes it'll go a little bit lighter or a little bit darker. So as this is drying, if it appears to be a little bit darker, that's great. It's just background noise for our wonderful illustrative type of character that we're creating. So you don't have to worry about it being the same exact color as mine. If yours is more brown or more yellow than mine, that also works too. Maybe you want a purple background. So feel free to make it whatever you like. And then if you want to, you can certainly do a second coat on this background. That would make it look all nice and complete and fill in any spots if you missed any spots. But I'm thinking mine's looking pretty good. I'm going to be, once I get this done, I will be using my pencil for the next step. So I'm going to put my large brush away, take out my pencil, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to draw an outline for a crocodile. I'm going to be using my pencil. I do recommend before you start this step that you make sure that your canvas is dry. So this is that time where you get to take an extra long break if you'd like to. Or you can find some kind of fun fanning method to get it dry, or you can do as I did and just whip out a blow dryer and get it dry that way. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be guiding you through a series of markers, and we'll connect those markers to make some really basic shapes that'll help us to paint in our base coat of our crocodile during the painting process. I'm going to start with the biggest, most obvious shape to me, which is going to be an oval that will be the start of our head, and then we will build everything else off of that. I'm going to find myself about the center of my canvas, left to right, top to bottom. For me, that's right about in through here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up from that about 3 inches and over to the right about an inch, inch and a half, and that'll be my first marker. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to travel from that all the way over to the left-hand side of my canvas until I'm about an inch away from the edge of my canvas. So somewhere in through there. And then I'm going to eyeball about the center between these two. So for me, I guess it'd be right about here. And then I'm going to go up about 2.5 inches, make myself a mark, and then down about 2.5 inches and make myself a mark. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect these in an oval type of a shape. Yours can be more round or square, whatever you want. This is an imaginary, fun, cartoon style type of character, so yours does not need to be exactly as mine. We are not making a photorealistic, anatomically correct crocodile, so if yours is different from mine a little bit, that's totally fine. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make myself 2 bumps for some eyes. So I'm going to find myself about this marker that we put right in through here. I'm going to go to the left of that about an inch, make myself a marker, and then as I come around this corner in through here, this is where my other marker is going to go, somewhere in through here. I'll split the difference between those two about here and go up maybe about an inch. That'll be my next marker. Then I'm going to connect my dots, and I'm going to create 2 bumps that are going to represent the exterior shape of my eyes that I'll be putting into place in a little while. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create the back side of the dragon. He kind of looks like a dragon, of the crocodile, or she. And I called it a he. I think I've got it kind of like looking like a female crocodile too. So I'm going to come all the way down to the bottom left-hand corner of my canvas, and I'm going to come up maybe about 1/2 inch to an inch, give myself a marker. And then I'm going to in essence, kind of connect this to the side of my oval shape. So I'm going to have this coming out right about in through here, and then I'm just going to give it a big sweeping kind of curvy type of line to represent the exterior shape of the back of my crocodile. So this will be kind of the back of the neck, and then this will be the going into the back of the back, something like that. Then I'm going to make a couple of crocodile spikes off the back of the back. So a few little just pointy triangle type of marks in through here. And of course you can have as many as you want. I'm just going to go about this far up because we're going to have a bump for the arm in a minute. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the front side of my crocodile. I'm going to come in down to the bottom left or right hand corner. I'm going to come in about 2 inches somewhere in through here, and then I'm going to connect this to, if this is the right hand side of my oval, I'm going to come down to like the bottom of it, and then I'm going to come down just a little bit further than that. So maybe somewhere in through here is where I'll be connecting it. I'm going to take this, I'm going to give it a neck and then a big belly. So something like this, bring it kind of straight down and then bump it out and then curve it to meet my marker down at the bottom. And you can see I'm kind of doing like a sketcherly type of line, so you can certainly adjust it to whatever you see fit. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the front part of the crocodile nose on. So this, again, could be longer or shorter. However you would like to do it is totally fine. I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to do a series of kind of bumps, and then kind of give this like the long part of the muzzle. This will look more realistic, more representational of a crocodile by the time we're done. But right now we're just giving it an exterior shape. So I'm going to come down in through this area. I'm going to come back up in through here. This will be the representation of the nostril area, and then I can just give this a little bit of a bump going into the head itself. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put on a couple of arms. We're going to have one arm on the side that's closest to the viewer, and then we'll just see a little piece of the other arm. I'm going to have the shoulder area in through here, so I'm just going to give myself a little bump like this, and then I'm just going to bring it down, putting my elbow somewhere right about in through here. So this is about almost halfway between the right side and the left side, and maybe up about 3 inches. And again, yours doesn't have to be exactly as mine. This is just something that's fun and representational. So there's that. I'm going to bring the forearm of my crocodile up in through here, with the wrist being just past the stomach a little bit. Something like that will work for me. Again, nothing fancy. And I'm not a crocodile professional, but I think they have like these short little stubby toes on their hands. So I don't even know if they had hands on their feet. So we're just going to make a couple of little bumps for the crocodile finger type toe things that we're making. Something like that. The other hand is going to be hidden by the cloth that this crocodile is crocheting. So I'm just going to put the representation of the wrist coming out the other side in through here. And then I'm going to give an organic type of shape for the cloth that it is creating. You can make yours as big or as small as you want. I'm just going to give this kind of almost like a scarf type of a shape in through here, like this. And then I'm going to put a couple little fingers, crocodile fingers, coming out the other side. So it'll be the fingers from this hand kind of holding onto it up and through here. And that's all I'm going to be doing for my outline. You can certainly make any little adjustments that you want. And actually, let me just erase a couple of these lines. I'm going to erase this little line in the arm here, and then this little line in the arm here. And then you can put your pencil down. We're going to be using our medium brush for the next step. So you can put your pencil down, get out your medium brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the base coat for our crocodile and the crocheted scarf of sorts. I'm going to use my medium brush. The colors I'm using are green, red, brown, and white. I'm going to be doing the base coat for the crocodile in green, and then this little piece of cloth, I'm going to be doing that in a custom color. So I'm just going to start with my crocodile. When I do this, I'm not going to be doing any fancy brush stroke. This is just going to be my base coat. And I know I have a lot of work that I'm going to be putting on top of this. So as I go through this process of putting the base coat on here, I'm not concerned about any brush strokes showing. I'm not concerned about any pencil marks showing. I did erase these 2 pencil marks because I didn't want us to get confused as to what we were painting during this process. And I wanted to just kind of keep those that arm separate, and I, for some reason, just didn't want the pencil mark in between it. But if you're using chalk or some other type of paint drawing utensil, what you could do is leave a little bit of a gap between the arm and the stomach. But if you're using pencil and your paint is transparent, you can paint right over that pencil and you'll be able to see it. And that will help you. You'll still be able to see that guideline. So during the, when we go to paint them in later to identify both of them separate from one another, you'll be able to see your guidelines. If you're using a drawing utensil that does not allow you to see it when you paint over it, then you'll want to leave those little visible gaps. Like when I use chalk, I know my chalk will disappear if I paint over it, but when I'm using pencil, a lead pencil like this, most of my acrylic paint on this first layer, I can usually see through it, which means I'll be able to see that guideline underneath for later use, so I don't have to worry about painting around it. I'm painting around this one because this is going to be that little piece of cloth. And when you get to the belly or even the backside, if you feel that you want to change the shape of your dragon, you're going about and you're like, oh, I want the stomach to be a little bit wider, or, you know, have bumps on it or something, you can certainly start to incorporate those type of changes now. And then when we go to do the details later, you can enhance them. Or if you feel that, you know, your neck is too wide, don't paint over your pencil, and then you can just erase that pencil later through the painting process. You know, you can erase it with a regular eraser, or you could take your background color and paint right over it. So point being is you don't need this layer to be perfect. You can see I'm using even different type of brush strokes as I go through this just to get the paint on here. I am bringing it all the way to the edge of my pencil. And like I said, if I go over it, I'll be able to see it. Or if I want to leave any of it because I want to reshape it or something like that, I can always just erase it. And I'm doing a layer on here that I know is going to have some light spots and dark spots, which again is all right for me because we're going to be doing some textural effects on the crocodile, and we'll also be doing, again, multiple layers on it. So any unfinished looking brush strokes at this point will be taken care of. And again, you can make yours look any way that you want. If you want yours to be reshaped to have a bigger, longer nose, or you know, smaller or bigger eyes, that's going to be your call. You can modify this whatever way you want. I'm going to have mine wearing glasses later. Maybe you want yours to wear a hat, or, you know, you can make it into whatever fun character that you'd like. This just gives you a base to create from, and you can modify it into any little crocheting creature that you would like. Oh, I'm going to change colors now. I'm going to make a custom color for the yarn creation of my crocodile. So I'm washing and drying my brush. I've already created my color here. I'm going for like a mauve type of look, which is a cross between like red, pink, and brown. So I've taken a little bit of red, brown, and white and created this soft mauve type of color that I'm going to be using for my yarn of my creation that my crocodile is making. So I've created my color and I'm just going to put a nice base coat on here. You could have this pink or purple or blue or yellow, whatever color you want your crocodile's, you know, craft project to be is up to you. Going right around these little fingers, and if I bump into them, that's all right. Fingers or toes. Again, not quite sure what a crocodile has. I'm sure somebody out there will let me know if crocodiles have fingers or toes. I'm thinking it's toes. I'm thinking they have feet. But, you know, maybe they have back legs, which have feet, and then they have arms, front arms, which maybe would have hands and fingers. I will definitely have to look it up later, unless you guys beat me to it. And then once I've got this done, I'm going to use this same brush for the next step. So once I've got this done, I'm going to wash and dry my medium brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to do the second step to the body of our crocodile. So this is going to be from the neck into the belly, this whole main area. We're not going to do the arms right now or the little scales, but we're going to put the dimension on the main body. I'm going to be using my medium brush. The colors I'm going to use are definitely black, green, white, and yellow, but I might go into a little bit of brown as well. If I do, I'll let you know. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be identifying where the head is versus the neck. So we'll be putting in a little delineation line between the head and the neck. We're going to put a big shadow underneath that head, and then we're going to put a shadow underneath the arm, which will make the arm pop out, and then we'll get it to go lighter and lighter as it goes towards that belly area. And we'll put a little bit of a highlight over here as well. So I'm going to start with a little bit of green and black on my brush at the same time. This is going to allow me to get this delineation between the head and the neck. So I'm going to start right in here, and I'm going to give myself a little bit of a curved line up and then drop it back down just a little bit to show the jawline of the crocodile. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to rub it into the neck. What this is going to do is it's going to create a lot of dimension underneath that head. I just picked up some more black and green, and I just want to be cautious that I don't go too dark, making it all black. So I can see that I do have a lot of paint on my brush right now, and I want to be careful. So I'm going to just wipe it off on my paper towel, and then I just start to rub it in. I want this left hand side to be a little bit darker than the right hand side. So I'm going to bring this all the way down to where that arm is and then just start to rub it in. I'm now picking up more green paint on my dirty brush. What that will do is create a gradient from the dark to the light. So I'm creating this dimension underneath the neck by adding this darker tone of green. And I keep reloading my brush with green without washing my brush. So what's happening is the black is working its way off of my brush, creating a natural gradient from the dark to the light. And I'm just going to bring this a little bit further down in through here. I might end up picking up a little bit more black because I know that I want to be able to see the difference between the arm and here, but I'm doing okay right now. But if I feel like it's not dark enough, I may end up adding a little bit more. But right now I'm still seeing that it is darker than my regular green, so it looks like I'm doing pretty well. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit more green and black on my brush to get the shadow underneath the arm. So a little bit more black and green to give me a shadow underneath my arm. And this again is going to allow that arm to pop right out and make it look very visible. And then I'm going to do the same thing that I did underneath the neck, which is rub it out. But again, I feel like I have a lot of black on my brush, so I just wiped it off on my paper towel, and I'm picking up more green. I just do that in an effort to stay in control with my colors. I don't ever want to get out of control. So if I'm going about it and I put my brush to my canvas and it feels and looks like it's all black and it's just too much, then I will wipe my brush off, or I will just pick up more green, like I just picked up more green right here. And now I'm just going to continue to pick up green to make my way towards the bottom of the crocodile. Again, just continuing to pick up green. I'm putting a second coat of green on the entire animal going in through here, so it will look nice and finished and that we've got a good coverage. And as I'm working my way towards the right hand side of the animal, I'm going to start to pick up a little bit of yellow, but let me just make sure that I've got this in here. That's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to pick up green and yellow on my dirty brush so I can get a lighter, more yellowy version as I'm coming towards this right hand side of the belly. We're going to be putting some really cool scales and effect on this right hand side, so this yellow is going to start the process of getting that that effect to occur. And I'm just going right around the yarn. If you want to, you can even bump this out a little bit. You can start the scale process by just giving a couple of subtle little bumps coming down the tummy, but that's not necessary. If you want to do it, or if it happens naturally, great. Like I said, we're going to be adding those special effects in a little bit. This just starts it off for us, and you want to make sure it doesn't look like you are painting or forgetting the other part on the other side of the arm. So just make sure whatever you do on the right side of this arm, that you travel over on the left side of the arm as well, to make it look like it's a continual effect going on that front side of the animal. And then I'm going to put a tiny bit of green and white on my brush to give myself a little bit of a highlight on the back side over in through here, just so it pops out just a little bit more. And this is going to kind of work its way into those shadows. And again, this is just making it pop up just a little bit more from my canvas, and making my crocodile look like it's got some form and dimension. And then I'm going to be using this, actually I think I'm going to use this same brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can wash and dry your medium brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint some scales. I'm going to use my medium brush. The colors I'm using are definitely yellow, white, and brown. On back here, I may use maybe just those colors. If I use any other colors, I'll let you know. What I'm in essence going to be doing is I'm going to create a little bit of color variation in these back scales, so they look a little bit different than the skin itself. And then on these, and I want them to look a little bit darker. I want the ones in the front to look a little bit brighter. These ones in through here, I'm going to have them in essence to show the contour of the crocodile belly and to give some nice color variations throughout the animal. I'm going to start back here. I'm going to start back here with a tiny bit of brown paint on my brush. I'm going to put it at the bottom of the scales, kind of the bottom left-hand side of the scales. I have hardly any paint on my brush. I'm just kind of rubbing it in towards the bottom, so it gives it a different appearance than the green that it's sitting in front of. And then I'm going to just pick up, I just wipe my brush off on my paper towel. I'm going to pick up a little bit of the yellow and just make sure that I've got the entire area covered. So I'm putting the yellow towards the top of this scale and making sure that I'm covering my pencil. You could use a little bit of your red if you wanted this to look a little bit different, you know, have a very different color. Actually, I'm going in. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of red and brown. I just feel like I want a little bit more color in here. So I picked up a little bit of red and brown. I'm going to put on this bottom left-hand side. Yeah, there we go. Sometimes you just got to go with what you're feeling. I was feeling that I wanted a little bit more color in them, so just a tiny bit of red and brown on my brush is satisfying my painterly eye. And that sometimes that's all you need to do to get those things to work the way that you want them to look. And that's all I'm going to do to that. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to start with brown paint to put, we'll call them the shadows between the scales in place. So I just have brown paint on my brush. And I'm going to give these contour type of lines to indicate the space between the scales. Of course, you could make as many as you want or as few as you want. I'm having, you know, the center of the belly's here, and so we're seeing a lot of it over in this direction. You could, like I said, have a lot or a few. It's going to be up to you how many you want to do. I'm just using the brown paint, and use it in a sketcherly way. You don't have to have these really clean, distinct lines. Maybe as it gets up towards in through here, maybe they fade up into the neck, and maybe it's not so distinct anymore as far as the actual separation between the two. And some crocodiles have a kind of a separate coloration from here to here. So if you wanted to use that brown to just give you a little bit of delineation between that light section and the dark section over here, you could do that as well. Now that I've got that done, I'm just going to pick up a little bit of my yellow without washing my brush, and I'm going to go in between. And again, I'm using this sketcherly type of brush stroke. This is where if I wanted to really accentuate maybe a little pop out of the scale, if I wanted it to look like it is bumped out a little bit, I could certainly do that. And I'm not concerned about it covering 100%. I really like the idea of it showing some of the green underneath, maybe pulling this a little bit off into where we just put the brown. And I'm just exploring my own visual preferences here. If you wanted, you could have purple scales, you could have pink scales, you could make it into whatever you'd like. I'm just going for, again, something that I felt would be complementary to the colors in my crocodile. As I come up in through here, I am, again, being mindful that I have arms, that I don't want them to look like we've painted around them, so I'm keeping this in a directional brush stroke, and I made sure that I went around, you know, made it look like it was behind that arm. As I come up towards this neck, maybe they're a little bit shorter, and keeping that curve as if they're going around the neck, so something like that works. Now I'm not going to wash my brush, but I'm going to pick up white paint. This is going to give me a real bright highlight on the front part of the belly, and I'm just kind of pulling it back. If you wanted to wait for it to dry, wait for the yellow to dry before you did this, you could certainly wait. This is, I like a lot of times just getting my paint to blend together like this, so I will work wet on wet. If you're having difficulty, if it's not doing what you want, just give it a minute, let it dry, and you can come back and add these add this second layer. You would just, if you weren't working wet on wet, you'd most likely want to use yellow and white at the same time on your brush, as opposed to just the white. I just added new white, but I had it's on top of my dirty brush, so I had that yellow in there as well. I think that's all I'm going to do. Maybe a little bit of my yellow and white on the tip back in through here. I'm feeling like they need a little tiny bit of something. And then we're going to be using our small brush for the next step. So once you've got your scales done, you can put this medium brush away, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to finish our crocodile arms and hands. I'm going to use my small brush. The colors that I'm going to use are green, white, yellow, and brown, and if I feel I need to use any other colors, I certainly will, and I'll let you know. So I'm going to start with a tiny bit of brown paint on my brush, and I'm going to start with my hands. What I'm going to do is I'm using my brown paint in order to give me a little bit of separation between my fingers, give a little bit of dimension down on this bottom side of the arm, just so I have a little bit of something other than just green. And then I'm going to bring this on the bottom side of the arm as well, and you can blend it into the green. I'm going to pick up a little bit more brown on my brush to give myself a little shadow underneath this arm in through here. And again, I'm going to blend it up into the green part of the arm. I will be adding some green on my brush and on the arm in a minute. This is just getting the party started with the bottom side of the arm having a little bit of a shadow on it. So it's just brown paint right now, allowing me to give myself a little darkness at the bottom of the arm. Now, without washing my brush, I just picked up green paint. So I'm gonna blend the brown into the green, or the mid-tone of the crocodile arm. Still picking up just green paint in order to make sure I have a nice good coverage. And we'll be putting a highlight on the top of the arm in a minute. But this will just allow us to make sure that we have a good coverage on the arm with our green paint, and make sure that it blends in with that shadowy area down at the bottom of the arm. So I'm going to do the same thing on the forearm. Again, just green paint on my brush and blending it into that shadowy area that I had at the bottom side of the arm. Same thing with my fingers. So you'll notice as I go through my process that a lot of times I'm doing a similar process from one element to the next, because it works for me. The order I put my shadows in, the order that I do a second layer to my mid-tone, a lot of times it's just a similar process from one object to the other, because that's the way it works for me. As you're doing your paintings, you may find that a different order works for you. Some people like to do the full mid-tone and then come back and do their shadows, and then come back and do their highlights. It's all what process works best for you. And I vary it depending, some paintings I'll do it in a different order, but a lot of times I'm doing a similar process. I just picked up green and white. This is going to add a highlight towards the top of my arms, as well as give me a little bit of form and dimension on them. So this is allowing for us to see the top side of the arm in front of that belly, or that side of the body, and it's also going to allow us to feel and make it look like the arm has some roundness to it. So that is my highlight on there, and then I'm picking up my green oxide just to make sure that it blends in. I'm using kind of a circular type of brush stroke in order to do my blending. You might find, and I'm not concerned about perfect blending on this one, because again, it's just a illustrated type of fun painting. If I was going for more of a perfect type of blend, I might opt to use a different brush or a different style of a different technique to apply it. But this is working for me. I just picked up more green and white to add a little bit of a highlight on the forearm, getting that to blend into that mid-tone and bringing it all the way to this line up in through here, just so I make sure that I can see it in front of the scales. Again, just picking up a little bit of green and white, give myself a little highlight on my fingers. I'm going to put some little crocodile nails on in a minute, but right now just kind of giving myself a little bit of highlight in through here. Now I'm going to pick up white and yellow to give myself some crocodile fingernails in through here, because I'm sure that this is the right color. White and yellow is my crocodile nail color for today. You could make yours whatever color you would like, but that's the color I'm going for. I'm going to put a couple on in through here. A little bit more yellow because that looked a little too light for me. And then we're going to be using our medium brush. No, we're going to use our small brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can wash and dry your small brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint the eyes. I'm going to be using my small brush. The colors that I'm going to use are black, yellow, white, red, and if I need to use some brown, I'll use brown too. So perhaps all of my colors. What I'm going to initially do is I'm going to be doing an outline for the eye itself. We'll be creating the first layer of that with a thin coat of black. Then we're going to be going and doing some more details around the eyes, and we'll come back and paint the details inside the eyes. We'll get to the outline in a minute, but what I want to first do is allow for everybody to kind of start at the same place. So we need the bridge of the crocodile nose to be evident. You may still be able to see your pencil mark. If you can, great, you don't have to do this next step. But if you can't see your pencil mark, what you'll want to do is pick up a tiny bit of yellow and white on your brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself kind of a curved line from here just past where I see this dent in through here. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. I've got yellow and white on my brush, and I'm just giving myself this little curved line, because what I want to do is just make sure that I don't go too far with my eyes. So this is going to give me a separation between the nose of my crocodile and where I want my eyes. Now I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to pick up black paint. And you could certainly draw this out with a pencil if you wanted to, but I'm just going to kind of go for it. On the right hand side, I'm going to give myself a little bit of a marker about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge of my skin in through there. And then I'm going to give myself another marker right about here. This is a little bit to the right of this dip in the eyes. So maybe about 1/2 of an inch to the right down in through here. And then I'll go in between these two and go straight up until I'm about 1/2 of an inch below the top of my eye socket area. Now I'm reloading my brush with black, and I'm going to just connect these with an oval type of a shape like this, and then like this, and then I'm going to color in the entire area with just a thin coat of black paint. And I stress kind of a thin coat because I'm looking for this to dry pretty quickly so we can build layers on top of it. If you've got more time on your hands and you want, have the time to just let this dry, you could certainly be doing a thick coat of paint, but I'm looking for mine to dry pretty quickly, so that's why I'm using a nice thin coat of paint. Then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other eye. I'm going to come right to where I have this mark in through here. That's going to be my first one right in through here. This one's going to come down a little bit further because I'm going to have this eye is going to be coming towards the viewer a little bit, or on this side of the head, I guess. So I'm going to come down from here maybe about 1/2 of an inch, maybe almost an inch, something like that, maybe a little bit lower than this mark over here. So somewhere in this vicinity will work. Then what I'm going to do is on the left hand side over here, I'm going to come in from this corner about 1/2 of an inch and down maybe about 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to connect these two with an arcing line. This is going to represent kind of the cheek area, or the bottom of the eye as it's meeting the cheek, and that'll give us some nice a nice look to it. I'm going to split the difference between here and here and go straight up until I'm about 1/2 of an inch away from the top, and then I'm going to connect these with some curves like that, and then I'll do the same thing over here like this. And if you're searching for clean lines, what you can do is, what I do oftentimes is I put a little bit of water on my brush with the black paint. That will thin it out a little bit and allow you to have cleaner edges to it. I just went outside my line, so we'll just correct that. There we go. And it'll also help to keep the paint nice and thin, so it'll dry on the quicker side. And I'm just going to kind of spread it around. And if there's areas where I can still see through it and it's not 100% coverage at this point, I'm okay, because I know that I'm going to be doing other details in just a couple of seconds here. So now that I've got that on there, what I'm going to do is I'm washing and drying my brush, and I'm going to create some other details around the eyes as that black is drying. I'm going to create a highlight on the top portion of my eye sockets. So I'm going to go with yellow paint first. This is going to be similar to what we did with the scales. I've got my yellow paint on my brush. And again, you can make yours as light or as dark as you want. This is a visual preference on your part. If you wanted your, skin up here to be really bright and white, you could completely do that. If you wanted to be on the darker side, maybe you go brown with this skin. I'm bringing this a little bit to the right over here so it looks like it's in front of this one a bit, picking up more of my yellow in order to get a bright area up in through here. I think I am going to put a little bit of brown or green, something in between these eyes too, so we can make sure that that is fully painted. Just bringing this down this right hand side. I'm going to pick up a touch of brown paint now. I just wipe my brush off on my paper towel just so I can have a little bit of separation between these two eye sockets. So I picked up a bit of brown, and then I'm actually going to pick up maybe a little bit of green. So I wipe my brush off just to get these to blend in and make sure that I have full coverage. So I did the brown to separate those two. Now I'm picking up green just to make sure that I have full coverage down in this area, in through here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe my brush off on my paper towel and make sure that I have this little area all the way over here. So I'm just looking to make sure my pencil marks are covered and everything blends. Now I'm going to wipe my brush off. I'm picking up a little bit of white paint to give myself a brighter highlight up at the top of this eye socket. So this is just blending in the white and the yellow up at the top, so it gives it a little bit more 3D type of a look, similar again to how we did the scales. And then once I've got this on here, it's looking pretty good. Just making sure I've got it blended as much as I want to. It's giving this little curve so it looks like it's higher up on the head than the other stuff is. I'm going to now wash and dry my brush. I'm going to put eyelashes on my cute crocodile. So I'm using black paint with a little bit of water on my brush. You can have big eyebrows or eyelashes, you can have small ones. I'm going to have them pretty darn large. So I have black, and I'm just going to kind of curl it out. And again, if your paint underneath is still wet and you want to wait a little while to do this, feel free to do so. I'm doing mine primarily up in this top right hand corner of the eye, but you could certainly bring it all the way, across the top. Wherever you'd like your eyelashes to go is totally fine. I'm going to do the same thing over on this side, just bringing out some fun, long, feminine kind of eyelashes. And again, make yours whatever way you want. But I'm trying to do it, similarly, however far down I went on one side, I'll go the same distance down on the other side, and maybe whatever the length on one side is, try and do it similarly on the other. Now I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to start on the details on the inside of the eyes. I'm going to start with white paint. So I washed and dried my brush. I'm going to give myself a little crescent of white around the eye, but I'm going to go a little bit away from the edge of the exterior edge. So I've got white paint on my brush, and I'm going to bring it a little bit thicker or wider up at the top, and then as I come down here, I just make it a little bit more narrow. So I let off the pressure on my brush as I'm coming down towards this little corner. And you can go all the way to the nose if you wanted to, or just leave it a little bit. That's fine. And then as I go on to this right hand side, we're seeing the eyes at a little bit different of an angle. So I'm going to kind of get this one to just almost disappear over there on the right hand side. I'm going to do the one on the left now. This one we're seeing more of it. And again, I'm not going to go all the way up to the top of the black, but I'm going to give this this side a little bit more of the white. So I'm just kind of pushing my brush pretty hard as I'm coming around here, and then as I get down towards that bottom, I let off on my pressure so it gets thinner down at that bottom area. And then I'll do the same thing on this left-hand side. So again, just pushing my brush kind of hard, and then as I come down, and of course if you make your line too wide or too narrow, you can just let it dry and you can correct it with black paint around the edges. That's a beautiful thing about painting around black paint. Black paint is so easy to correct because it covers so well. And then once I've got this done, I'm gonna just kind of clean that up a little bit. I'm going to wash and dry my brush again. I'm going to put the colored part on the eyes. So I'm going to be using red and yellow as my colored part. I have about equal parts of red and yellow on my brush, and I'm going to give each eye a nice little colored part to it right next to the white part. I'm going to leave a big black area in the middle for the pupil of the eye. So this is just red and yellow. It will turn darker as it dries, so just know that whatever color it is when it's wet, because it's on the black paint, it will end up quite a bit darker as it dries. And again, I'm just leaving some of the interior black space as the pupil, and then just bringing this down. And again, if you make your pupil too big or too small, you can certainly adjust it once it dries and just fiddle with it as much as you want. I might actually add another layer on top of my pupil to make it a little bit blacker if I need to. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm adding some sparkle marks on my eyes. So I'm going to put white paint on my brush. I'm going to put a nice bright spot of white paint in through here, and you can put it as heavy as you want. Even if you're going on top of wet paint, like I feel like I might be going over a little bit of wet paint, I'm all right with that because I know that these little sparkle marks can be can have shines of other stuff in them, so they don't always just have to be white paint. But what I'm doing is I'm crossing it over the other colored section, so it's making it look like it's something other than the eye itself. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of pull down a little bit of a streak mark to tell the story of the contour of the eye. So I have a little bit more white on my brush. I'm going to take it from here, and then I'm going to just kind of pull it down in a curve. And again, going through wet paint is great because that's going to make it have these different color variations in it. And then I would just let it dry, and if there's any other little things that I want to do to make it more, you know, conducive to my painterly eye, I would certainly do that. And then we're going to be using our medium brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can put your small brush away, take out your medium brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is, we'll call it the second step to the face. So it's this area in through here. What I'm going to be doing is a similar process to what I did on the main body section, which is I'm going to be adding some shadows to for some contour areas and highlights for some contour areas. I'll be adding like a yellow area where I feel the mouth is going to go. I'll be adding some almost scale type of textural stuff on the bridge of the nose like we did on the tummy, and we'll give some light area around where like the nostrils and the mouth are going to go. I'm going to start with, so I'm using my medium brush. I'm going to be using green, brown, black, white, and yellow. No red. So I'm going to start with a little bit of green and just a teeny tiny touch of black. So mostly green with a teeny touch of black. I'm going to start up and through here. I'm going to go kind of dark to light as I go through this process. I want a little bit of a shadow up in through here as if it is maybe shadowed by the eye, or, you know, the contour of the head. And then I'm just going to bring this down. This is going to also cover my pencil marks that I feel are a little evident right now. Maybe this is a kind of a little shadow from the glasses too. We'll be putting more distinct shadows on of the glasses in a little while, but this is just going to give me that little depth on the face. Now I'm going to pick up green without washing my brush. So I just picked up green again to get my shadow up there to blend in with the rest of that area on the face. I'm gonna bring this green just over here as well, again, just to make sure that that's all as blended as I want. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start picking up yellow with a little bit of brown on my brush, so yellow and a little bit of brown. I want to start this bottom area of the face and through here, so this is yellow and a little bit of brown. This I'm feeling is going to be kind of where I have my mouth area, but I want there to look like there's kind of like a little cheek too in through here, so I'm going to add a little bit more the yellow up in through here as well. Now I'm going to pick up a touch more yellow on my brush to get this color variation down here in the mouth. And as I work my way up this face, I'm going to think of, you know, nostril areas, and I'm going to think of the scales at the top. So right now I'm going to pick up a little bit of green, yellow, and white, just a touch of all three of those on my brush. Maybe give myself the illusion of the tops of the nostril areas in through here. And I'm going to be putting nostrils on in a little bit, but this will just give me maybe an idea of where I want them to go. So I'm just kind of making these circular type of areas, making this front of the face a little bit lighter so it protrudes out towards the viewer. And now I'm going to pick up I want to have kind of the scale things on the nose like I did down below. So I wipe my brush off, I'm picking up some brown paint. I'm going to give some little scales going up the bridge of the nose. So again, I'm going to just attack this similarly to how I did. And I need the bridge of the nose to look kind of as wide as the nostrils. So when I do these curved marks, I got to kind of bring them almost as wide as that. They can certainly get a little bit more narrow as they go up, but in order to give that illusion that this muzzle is, you know, proportioned properly to the nose, you want to do that first one or two pretty much as wide as you did the nostril area. Now I'm going to pick up some of my yellow to go in between these, and again, just have fun with it. You don't have to do it, you know, very distinct, just whatever you're feeling. I'm going yellow and white now as I go up towards the top of this bridge of the nose in through here, a little bit of yellow and white. And of course I can bring this in between here. So again, I'm just having fun, allowing for these really carefree mark making ways to create the illusion that I want. A little bit of yellow and white, more yellow and white on my brush because that dried a little bit darker than I wanted it to. So I just elevated it with a little more yellow and white. And again, just have fun. This is a really fun animal that we're creating, and it's a creative animal, so if you want yours to be lighter or darker or have more substance to it or have different color variations, feel free to go for it. I'm going to add whatever's on my brush right now up here on this underneath that eye, just so I have to reload, little yellow and white, so I can get a little bit of a light spot up in through there. And then I just want to blend this, so I'm going to pick up some green on my dirty brush. Make sure that this is all blended in through here. And again, we're going to do some other fun stuff to the face, but maybe just a little bit more yellow on my brush for this area in through here so this pops out a little bit more. And then once you've got this done, just getting this little cheek to pop out a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. Needed just a little bit more yellow on there. Once you get this done, we are going to be using our small brush for the next step. So you can put this medium brush away, fiddle with this as much as you want, and again, know that we've got some fun details that are still to come, but once you've got this done, you can put this medium brush away, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. Alright, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint some nostrils, a mouth, and some teeth. I'm going to be using my small brush. The colors I'm going to use are black. I'm going to use my wall color, or my back, that tan, and white. And if there's any other colors that I want, I'll let you know. So I'm going to start with some black paint with a little bit of water on my brush to create my mouth. I'm going to have a real long mouth because that's what crocodiles have. It goes all the way back to their jaw. So I'm going to have this coming back, way back in through here, maybe up in this vicinity. And I want my crocodile to look kind of friendly, so we're going to put a little bit of a curve on the edge of this. And then in this region at the bottom of the mouth, I wanted to go more straight across as opposed to just coming up at an angle like this, because I want this to look like it's a kind of a flat part to the front of the face. So I'm going to start over here, and I'll follow whatever kind of contour that I have for the bottom part in through here, and then I'll stay a little bit away from this edge in through here, and then I will come up and give it whatever kind of curve I want. I'm probably just going to follow the curve that I have set already, something like that, and then just bring it up a little bit in through there. And of course you can tweak yours any which way that you want. But while that's kind of set, and it doesn't need to be a clean line. This is, you know, you could soften it up a little bit, making it look a little bit more three-dimensional as opposed to just a line that's drawn on there. So if you soften it a little bit like I'm doing right now, it'll make it look, you know, more realistic as far as, you know, realistic crocheting dragons go. I'm going to use the remnants on my brush to make some nostrils in through here, something like this. And of course your nostrils can be as big or as little as you want. Crocodiles have all different kinds of size nostrils, especially the imaginary kind or the fun, creative, intuitive kind like this one is. So now that I've got my nostrils on there, these characters just make me laugh and they make me happy when I'm painting them, because they can, whatever happens, happens. You just let go and have fun and make some nostrils. Now we're going to make some teeth. So I'm going to pick up my tan color and I'm just going to make some triangle type of teeth. I'm going to have one coming in through here. You can have them going up in an upward direction or in a downward direction. Whatever way you want them to come out of the mouth is up to you. So I'll have one in through there. Maybe I'll have a bigger one kind of coming out in through here. I'll give them a little bit of a three-dimensional look, but I'm not going to be doing a whole heck of a lot, again, just because it's a fun creation we're making. We're not going to stress over the little details. I think I'm going to have this one maybe somewhere in through here. We'll have this one maybe a little bit bigger and coming in a bit different of a direction. And then once I've got that on there, in order to give it a little bit of dimensional element like I've given everything else in the painting, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a tiny bit of black paint on my dirty brush to just give the bottom of them, I need a little bit more than that, just a teeny tiny bit, in order to get a little bit of darkness at the bottom of the tooth so it doesn't look so stark and sticking out from the mouth without having a little bit of dimension to it. And I'll put a little bit of a white area at the top of it. You could even put shadows on the skin behind it if you wanted to, but now I'm going to wash and dry my brush and I'm going to pick up a little bit of white just to give it a little shine at the top, as if this crocodile takes care of her teeth and she's got shiny little teeth. And then we're gonna you can make any little adjustments that you want, and then we're gonna be using this same small brush for the next step, so you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're gonna finish our crocheted creation. I'm going to use my small brush. We're going to be putting the crochet hook on, and we're going to finish the yarn element that she has created. I'm going to be using my small brush. I'm going to be using black, brown, white, and my custom mauve color. What I'm going to first do is I'm going to put my crochet hook in place with a little bit of black paint. I wanted to kind of make sense where it's going. So my mom used to crochet, and she used to have the crochet hook and yarn and everything all spun all around and tangled in her hands. So that's where this crochet hook's going, with the yarn attached. I'm going to make the crochet hook kind of coming in this direction. You could certainly draw this out, but I need the little hook part itself. So we're going to just make this going in this direction, and it's got to go behind the hand. I'm going to put a little hook, because crochet hooks have hooks on the end. And then I'm going to go straight. Well, actually, I don't want to screw this up, so I'm going to use my pencil to just guide me in a similar direction. There we go. That helps me. Using my pencil just so I have a straight line trajectory from there, because I know that crochet hooks need to, or are typically pretty straight. They wouldn't necessarily be curved. So we'll just make sure that we'll give a good information there. And then I'm just going to widen up a little bit. And of course, if you need to correct the straightness of it, you can always do that with some of your background color. But I'm going to put a little highlight on it in a minute that will help if I need to. So that works there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to finish up my yarn while this is drying. I'm going to put a little highlight on that in a minute, but while it's drying, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the little yarn trail coming down. I know that I want this to look like it's hooked onto some of the form or the piece that she's making in through here. So I'm just going to bring up a little piece of yarn like this, and then maybe loop it around, something like that. That works. Like the hook is going through it and is going to pull it, or, you know, make the thing that it needs to make. And then we need a lot of yarn just kind of spilling out everywhere. So I'm gonna put yarn kind of coming out this back side, and I'm gonna have it kind of coming up as if it's in motion. I'm gonna have it kind of coming up, and we'll have it going down over her hand, and we'll have it coming down her belly area, and then I think we're just gonna kind of swoop it around like that. And you can make it wide, you can make it thin, whatever width you want to make it. If it's wider down here, it's going to kind of look like it's closer to the viewer. I wouldn't make it too much wider, but you could certainly, if you want to give it that extra little depth perception, you can certainly make it just a little bit wider as it comes towards the viewer down here at the bottom. And I'm going to just kind of do a second layer on here to make sure that I've got good coverage. I'm going to finish this up while that black is drying on the crochet hook. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown to create almost little rows within my crochet piece. So I just picked up brown, and this is really just an impressionistic type of appearance that I'm giving it. I'm not going for anything realistic here. I just know that when you're crocheting, you're doing it in rows. So this is going to allow me to give it a little bit of that look. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to pick up my mauve plus white on my brush, and I'm going to create the illusion of like little X marks. So this is going to make it look like it's crocheted or knitted. It's going to have just a little bit of a texture to it. Again, I'm not going for realism here. I'm just going for something that's going to create a little bit of an illusion and maybe give us some fun dimension to this. So I'm just putting these little X marks in between some of those brown rows that I had done. And maybe I'll put it more so in areas that I feel that would pop out more. So if I can give a little bit of this illusion in between here with just a little bit of the texture, and then if I want it to look like that piece of yarn is, or the cloth is coming out further, I picked up a little bit more white, and that'll give it a little bit of a look like it's like this part is bumping out a bit more to us. And that's just a fun part about this. Again, I'm just doing little tiny X's. You could certainly make this really intricate and make it look very realistic if you're familiar with knitting or crocheting, and you can emulate those patterns of what the yarn does as it is being tied into these rows, and or knotted, or whatever the correct terminology is. And then once I've got this done, this is looking pretty cool. Maybe a little bit more lightness up at the top, just to give it, you know, make it look like it's closer to our light source and has a little bit more body to it. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick up just a little bit of white and my mauve to give myself a little bit of a highlight on my piece of yarn in through here. So this is just white plus my mauve, and I'm just really streaking this down so it looks like it's catching a little bit of the light and has a little bit of dimension to it as well. And then I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to put a little highlight on my crochet hook. So washing and drying my brush, I'm going to pick up a little bit of brown and white on my brush, about equal parts of both, and I'm just going to give myself a bit of a shiny little highlight on the top side of it, like that. And then I'll pick up a tiny bit of white and give it a little extra sparkle. So just a little extra white wherever you feel that you want a little extra sparkle on the top of that hook. And that's all I'm going to be doing. You can certainly do anything more that you want. Like I just picked up brown to do a little shadow under these fingers. And then we will be using this same small brush for the next step. So once you've got this done, you can wash and dry this small brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to paint some fun glasses. I'm going to be using my small brush. The colors that I'm going to use are black, red, white, and my custom mauve color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in essence, outline everything with my black paint or as my base coat, and then we will be adding little details on top of it. Now I'm just going for a nice set of reading style glasses that are just set down on the nose a little bit. You could certainly go for any kind of glasses that you'd like. Have fun with it, make them into whatever you like. You could also draw it out first if you wanted to. I'm going to be using my black paint to draw it out, but you could certainly be using a pencil if you want to. I've got black paint on my small brush. I'm going to first give myself a bridge on the nose for my glasses so I know where the center of my glasses is going to be, and the muzzle is turned to the side, so this is going to kind of cross over in through here. So I'm going to give myself a little curved line like this, and then I'm going to give myself the top edges of the glasses. The left side is going to be a little bit bigger than the right side, so I'm going to go up from these corners just a little bit to give myself the inside corner, and then I'm going to give myself a little bit of a diagonal line that's going to take me to right about here, which is a little bit to the left of the corner, the inside corner of the eye. And mine are even, my glasses are even crooked, so, or, you know, could be crooked, so don't feel that yours have to be completely straight. I'm going to bring this one out in more of a horizontal kind of line, and to show you where this is over here, it's kind of in the middle of my nostril as far as over to the right. And then I can connect them with a kind of a horseshoe type of a look, or a horseshoe type of a line. So we'll see the whole one on this side, and then the right side we'll only see a portion of it. So got this going on like this, and then on the right side I've got a little bit of it is going to be behind the edge of the nose. That'll give you a little extra bit of perspective on it, so that helps to just, you know, sell the story a little bit more, that the head is tipped a bit. I'm going to put some arms on the glasses. Of course, she doesn't have ears, so we're just going to go diagonally back from here, back a little bit past her head, like this, and to the corner of the glasses, and then I'll give it a little bit of a curve, as if it's going behind her face, and that's how it's going to stay on. And then I'll do a similar angle coming off of this corner. So this is going to take it almost halfway up the eye. something like this, and just bringing it back to this corner in through here. And you could have really wide glasses if you wanted to have a lot of detail on them. You could make the rims of them really wide. It's going to be up to you. I'm going to put a string coming down the edges of the glasses so they, you know, if she doesn't want to wear them, she could, you know, have them hanging around her neck. I'm going to come to the left of this corner. I would say maybe about 1/2 inch to 1 inch. Give myself just a little circular thing that comes around there. And then I'm going to drop this as if gravity's taking over, and almost kind of like a necklace type of a thing. I'm going to bring this, let me just kind of plan this out here. It's going to come down to about here. So it's going to come around in through there, just so I like to have a starting and an ending point, if you haven't noticed that already. So I'm going to come down like this, gravity, 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 and then as it comes in through here, I'll start to curve it a little bit into there. I'm going to put the essence of it over on this side as well. So if the glasses, if it will have a little piece in through here, coming around there, it's going to fall behind the glasses, again similarly to how we just did it on the left side, bringing it back behind that nose, and we imagine where it's coming down in through here, and then it'll give it a little bit of a curve like this to go around the back side of her head. So what you do on one side, you just want to mimic it on the other side. While that black is drying, I'm going to put a little bit of a shadow of my glasses on her face. I'm going to add quite a bit of water onto my brush. So I like to just dip my brush in my water, and you can see how transparent or translucent this is. This is going to allow me to give a nice shadow along her face of her glasses. So I'm going to start right underneath here. This is, to me, where the glasses would kind of cast a shadow on her face, and through here, maybe just pull it down a little bit. We'll have a little bit of a shadow of her, of the arm of it, maybe coming down in through here, like this. And you can always add more if it's not. Maybe this comes down her face a little bit because her face is curved. If you do the shadow and it doesn't seem powerful enough, and you can always make it darker. But I like to just, you know, a lot of times be cautious going in and then just add more if needed. So that way I'm not backpedaling to try and do more on my background or anything like that. I want to do a shadow of her, the string on her glasses too. So I'm going to just kind of make that pretty near it. So right in through here. And then it's going to stop on the edge of her head right here as if it went there, and then it's going to jump down onto her neck down in through here. And that again will give a little bit of information as for the contour of her body. And I'm just going to bring this down right around here. That works for me. And now we're going to start adding some fun detail onto these glasses. I might amp up that shadow a little bit in a minute, but it's good for now. I'm going to put some red on. So I washed and dried my brush. I'm picking up red paint. She's wearing some red glasses, so I'm going to just outline the black rim with red, so you'll be able to see some of the black as well. This red is transparent, which means you're going to be able to see the black underneath it, which I intended because I want the red to be pretty dark. I'm skipping over that little piece in through there. I'm leaving a little, or attempting to leave a little bit of the black at the bottom side of my red line, and that way it'll look like maybe there's a little shadow or something like that at the bottom. But if I can see any of that black, great. If not, no worries. And if you want your red to be even brighter, if you cross it over into the light region of your background, it will take on the color of your, it'll show as brighter because of that background color. So whatever color the red is on top of, that'll tell you the intensity of that red. It will be brighter on the light background and darker on the dark background. And I'm just bringing this right in through here, skipping the nose, going in through here. And you could certainly be using a larger brush or a smaller brush, wherever your comfort zone is. Works. Oh, I need to put a shadow of the bridge of my glasses as well. Not that it's totally necessary, but if I did it elsewhere, I should probably do it there as well. And every time I feel that I need to push my brush hard to get my line, that tells me that I need to reload my brush. In order to avoid me pushing too hard, I just keep reloading my brush. I'm going to have a fun decorative beading of my down the sides here. I don't want it to be red, I want it to be pink, so I'm going to take my red and add a touch of white into it so I can get a different color in my painting. I've got a nice pink now, and I'm going to use that as beads on my glass holder of sorts. I'm just going to take this and I'm going to give myself these fun little beads going down here. And again, this is one of those things that you don't need to make yours exactly like mine. Maybe you want to emulate it after somebody you know, or a pair of glasses that you have. This is just a fun element that I thought would be nice and decorative and give us a little bit more to look at and to enjoy. But you don't even need to put glasses on your crocodile. But I believe my mom used to wear glasses when she was crocheting, so it's not that this is totally modeled after my mother, but I can tell you I definitely was thinking of her as I was creating it. Even right now, I can't stop thinking about her. So I'm going to have to pull out some of the crochet goodies that she had made for me when I was little. I'm going to put a couple on this back side too. This is on the other side of the glasses, so I'm not going to do much. Just this side isn't going to be as bright. I'll add a highlight on the ones on the left side, but so that works. But I wanted them to look like little beads, so they would in essence be on both sides of this little string that's connecting them, and you could fiddle with that all you want. I'm going to pick up a little bit of white paint on my dirty brush, put a little shine on the beads on this left hand side. So this is just white paint on my dirty brush going down, adding a little sparkle shine on these beads, just a little tiny twinkle dot, and that gives them a little bit of a dimension to them. And again, if you needed to wait for yours to dry, feel free to do so. I just like having my colors kind of mixed together. I'm not going to do it on this side because I feel like we're seeing the dark side of those beads, so I'm just going to do it on this one. I'm going to wash and dry my brush, and I'm going to finish up my lenses to my glasses. They're going to be reflecting a whole bunch of stuff, so I want them to reflect a little bit of my crocheted piece. So I just washed and dried my brush, and I'm picking up my mauve color. I'm going to give each lens a little piece of the blanket or the scarf of sorts that she's doing. So I'm going to just kind of put a little reflective color in through here, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other glass in a similar spot. So somewhere in through here, just a little reflective piece of the of her creation. Like that is good. I'm going to wash and dry my brush. While that's kind of settling for a minute, I'm putting a little highlight on the top of my glasses. So I'm picking up red and white on my brush at the same time. Red and white. I'm just going to give myself a little tiny highlight up towards the top. Red and white. You can pick up more white if you want to, or more red. Totally up to you. This is, again, just, I need a little, I'm going to put a little on this little rope here too. Any little streaks or information that will help sell your story, feel free to do so. Now I'm going to wash and dry my brush. I'm going to put a shiny reflection in my glasses. I'm going to pick up just white paint with a little bit of water on my brush, and I'm going to start up in the top left-hand corner. I'm going to give myself a pretty bright area up in through here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it down in through here a little bit, pick up more water on my brush, and I'm going to get this to fade into my glasses. I can even do it a little bit over that mauve color and just get it to blend in a little bit. I'm going to pick up a little bit more white to give myself a real bright little mark in through here, and you can even do like a bright reflection down the center of it, as if there's a light on somewhere that's going to give you a little bit of a shine, similar to how we did in the glasses themselves, or in the eyeballs. So white plus water on my brush is going to give me the start of this, bringing it towards that top left, bringing it down the bottom left, and then just kind of rubbing it out so it blends in like that. And then I'm going to pick up more white to give me a bright area there, and then maybe a little reflect, and you go over stuff, little reflection in through there, and then just fiddle with it all you want, any little adjustments that you want to make. And then we are going to be using this small brush for the next step, so you can just wash it and dry it and get ready. All right, so we are on to the final step. This is the final step of every painting, which is to sign it. So I typically sign mine in the bottom left or the bottom right. I'm going to be using my small brush. I'm going to go bottom right on this one with black paint. I like to sign mine with my initials, but you could certainly sign yours with your first name or the date or a symbol or whatever you would like for your identifying mark to be is totally fine, because it's your painting and you get to sign it however you'd like. And that's going to conclude this painting. I hope you enjoyed the process. I hope you painted yourself a very fun creation, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.